Hey, everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy helmets that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy helmet to listen in. And we are back with you for our first episode of 2026. Hey.
New Year, same bad fucking attitude.
Yeah. For posterity's sake, we probably should mention that we are coming to you just 2 days after the shooting in Minneapolis where Renee Good was killed by ICE agents. And it's been a preoccupation, to say the least, around some of these parts at least. So,
yeah.
Oh, man. So there might be a tinge of anger at points. We did want to acknowledge this. We probably don't want to go into it in depth. There were better resources to provide your information about that. But just do understand that at the time of the recording this, that we're, as citizens, we're kind of hostages right now. Mm-hmm. And, I hope that this is a wake-up call to a lot of people, about how bad it is right now.
Certainly a landmark moment.
Yeah.
In a bad way. But
this is, I really do think this is a before and after. And more than any other time, I feel like it's us or them.
Yeah.
So, and I thank the stars that I don't have to deal with people that have a different ideology than I do within my family. And, it's in the close circle of friends. There's some people on the periphery, but fuck them anyway. So,
yeah. Well, I do not know why, but it does not look like it is streaming to YouTube right now. It just looks like it's Twitch and Riverside. Not sure why it's doing that.
I got a weird pop-up when we were loading.
So did I, about it going to like one Twitch account and not the other.
Yeah. Which I don't know how any of that works. So,
which Twitch account would it be going to?
I don't know. But can we keep going and then just put this up?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Anyway? Okay.
Absolutely.
It just won't be streaming. Is it streaming at Facebook?
No. And it's saying it's not streaming in YouTube either, which is very strange. Because that was all included in this. I don't know why it's being weird.
All right. But we are recording and we can post it to YouTube.
Absolutely.
After this. Okay. All right, good.
Oh,
As video, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I worried because I'm not in charge of this, so
I know.
I have a problem. I'm a little bit of a control freak in certain ways. So
not a problem.
Steve, really, this is a major step for me to let you run with all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It really was. So.
So, and I'm not sure why it's why it's
earned
being
one
weird,
of my nicknames in a sense. So, yeah.
But in any case, we'll be getting this up on video right afterwards. So, can't follow along live. You'll be seeing us delayed.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to shake things up a little bit because this is, apart from being our first episode of 2026, it's also our first post-Christmas episode, Christmas 2025. In terms of the Geek Gets, I really bogarted it last time. I had a lot of advanced gifts, and I'm not going to be the spoiled little brat. I'm very happy to hand it off to you two gentlemen. I have two things I want to show, but if you want to, just jump into the Geek Gets, the Christmas Geek Gets, the Yuletide.
The Yuletide Gets.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good idea because I know, we got a bunch of stuff that we sent each other. So, we could probably just get started. And I think, Caleb, you had a bunch of things, so maybe you should go first.
I do. I had a good Christmas, so I received a ton of stuff and a lot of stuff from you guys as well. but just in general. So I'll go through the Geek Gets that I got just and try to be quick because there is a lot of stuff. But so I'll start with the stuff I got from my husband and my immediate family. I got a bunch of books that I was wanting to get. There's an artist named Haruki Murakami, who I've been wanting to read a lot of their stuff, and so I got a couple of books from them. Kafka on the
cool.
Shore and the Wind Up Bird Chronicle, award-winning books. I got a version of Tom of Finland, made in Germany. Very happy to have that nice hardcover shelf treatment. And look, I can show you that picture. It's a picture I can show.
We can see one of
got
them.
that. I got Maurice Velicoup's I'm so glad we had this time together, a memoir. So if you haven't heard or know what this is, it's a it's a graphic memoir, but it's very queer about this guy's life. I've seen it lauded, so I was really excited about reading it. I'm going to tap into that and see what that's all about. My boss got me a copy of Thomas Piketty's Capital in the 21st Century. This is going to be a very dry read, but it's right up my nerd alley. It is quite literally about how we need to rethink money and what that means and what capital means in the digital age, since it's not real anymore. So those are nerd things that I got. I also got a fantastic graphic novel / cookbook by Robin Hoff for some friends of mine, and it's called Cook Korean, a comic book with recipes. So I love Southeast Asian cuisine, so I'm very excited about playing around with some of those recipes. And it's a graphic novel, so what else can go wrong? My beloved, or our beloved boss, I should say, Mr. Bill Zanowitz, sent me a sweet little care package that I'm super happy about. Copy of Judas Priest's British Steel on vinyl, which I love. Thank you.
Sweet.
And also, I was really excited about this because this is relatively new to me, but it's Oliver Sims' Hideous Bastard. It's an album that Bill spoke about on the show a couple months back, and it said I'd really like it, and I do. This is fantastic. I absolutely loved that.
And it's worth for people. Oliver Sims is the bass player of the X's.
Yes. Yep.
Or the XX. I know there's people have disputes about how it's pronounced, but
it can be one. I think it can be everything.
The band with Jamie X and Romy. All right.
So love that though. Love that solo record. Very, very good stuff. My nieces proved that I raised them right. My one niece got me a copy of Led Zeppelin 3. Very excited to have that. Very good album. Another niece said, "Hey, Uncle Caleb, you need Smashing Pumpkins' greatest hits." So have that as well. And then I bought myself a little something too. I just happened to be at a thrift store the other day and saw this, but it's Ministry's Stigmata. It's a single from the Land of Rape and Honey album. I'd never seen this before in this format, so I snatched that at a bargain price out of a weird bin that had like Kenny Loggins and a bunch like Chicago and a bunch of like mid-70s like kind of mainstream dance rock stuff, which it's weird that that's what it was in, but cool, awesome. That was meant for me. That was a find. And then my friend Steve, my boo, sent me I'm fairly certain you just like beat the shit out of a Santa and stole his Santa bag and then sent me all the stuff inside it. So we'll start with some of the little, like a huge sack of stuff. Little Red Hulk action, keychain. Glad to have that. I don't actually know square flamingo. I don't know what this is. I don't understand it. It baffles me. It's many things. I think it's up for interpretation. I shall write a dissertation upon it in a cubist form. You also sent me Florida Gode's Dancing on the Volcano, which I think you told me about this. Super excited to read this, to see it. It is very much on my list and will be consumed very soon. Because no collection is complete without Central American water god Twink Daddy Namor. I now have.
Oh, and thankfully the box survived a little bit.
I almost got that for you. I came this close to getting that for you. I was almost going to get that and Shuri. Oh man! And I
You
said,
know me.
nah,
You know
I bet
me
he
so
already
well.
has.
I
said,
believe he's
bet he already
anatomically
has.
correct
You
too.
didn't, and you got it. So maybe I did pick up on the psychic vibes.
I don't know if it's really anatomically correct. I've seen the videos, and there's a bigger bump in the videos I've seen. But super awesome stuff. Thank you. Got a few other things. You sent me a bunch of posters. I'm not going to unpack all of those, but some cool Venom posters. Marika Andolfo poster, which is dope. I love it. Thank you.
Yep.
I've got a couple of blind bags of comics that I will probably open during the show while other people are talking and doing things, and just like randomly throw them out. Super excited about that. And then this is fun because this is a throwback. It ties into an episode of the show. We had some special guests on at one point in time who had, and God forgive me, their names are escaping me right now. But they are a duo that had a Kickstarter comic called The Heirs of Ilsidur. Very cool fantasy comic. We had the two creators on. Fantastic people. They made a record. And so it's got a soundtrack to it, and I am now the proud owner of that soundtrack. And just look how awesome this thing is. Like that's dope.
Yeah.
Like that's and sorry about the glare, but that's cool stuff. High fantasy, great stuff, and you can get more of their stories. Just there's a QR code and stuff like that. So thank you to both of you, to the folks that thought enough of me of giving me little gift clues, and just it's nice. I appreciate you. It was definitely the holidays are not my favorite, and so but that little gift of joy was nice. It definitely brought me up. So I appreciate you both, and I appreciate getting to have you in my life.
And just for people who may want to explore that, the people that we did have on for that show were Steph Cannon and Matt Knowles.
Yes. Yep. Steph and Matt,
Symmetry.
Fantastic people. I think they've both relocated down to Florida now, and they're still doing more stuff. So fun stuff and fun folks to sit and chat with. That was good time.
Oh yeah.
I'm terrible with names, by the way, so it's not a reflection on them. It's totally the fact that my brain is potatoes most of the time. Well, exactly what you want to hear from somebody who's a lawyer. So,
well, just so you know, so if you want to look up a lot of what they do, in Symmetry Creations as well, is what they publish under. So their Heirs of Isildur series is available for purchase, and they do frequently have Kickstarters. So, which is where I got that wonderful record, and I was like, I started early for this present for you, Caleb. I was like, I need to get this.
You've given me some really cool and kind of obscure records over the years of stuff that I would not normally have found, like some really good metal. So it's fun. It's always eclectic, and I love it.
I figure somebody wants to listen to the stuff that I like. So.
And a glass of water.
Yes. Water.
For the memory.
Oh. So who's next?
You.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you go on? I'll just wrap. Mine's. I just have two things I want to show off.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have a couple cool things here, and again, from both of these wonderful gentlemen who took time out to collect little things and send them my way, which I'm super super grateful for and always appreciate. Boss over here got me a couple little figurines. Now this one, of course, I love my little Chomper Crypto.
Yeah,
from the Superman
this
movie.
Is Caleb's. Caleb's didn't fit in with the albums, so he will get this later.
And then also this, which is it's a Sonic. I forget what character this is. Because I whatever. I didn't see the latest movie.
I've just been calling him like Dark Sonic.
Yeah, like Nega Sonic.
It's a different name,
but yeah, something. But basically, for a long time, no matter what promotion was happening over at McDonald's, I always seemed to get Sonic toys, and Bill kept
which
one
is
that he
interesting
got.
Because this was not from McDonald's.
It wasn't. Oh,
this is a Burger King.
Burger King. I can't escape them, even from other fast food joints. But no, this was awesome. Thank you so much. And then also, you had sent me a couple books. Oh, I'm dropping stuff over there. So one of them is this huge the Batman Superman collection from Mr. Tom King. Just enormous. I haven't
You might
read
have to
any
correct that.
of
You
it.
said Superman.
I mean, Batman, Catwoman. I have not read any of these. I have a lot of these issues, but I haven't actually read any of them because there's too many floppies. But now I can actually read it in a collected form, which is great.
It's good stuff. It really is.
Yep.
It's impossible.
And then also this interesting book, which I guess the kids in Japan might call it a light novel, but I would consider it just a really fun illustrated YA book, No Place for Monsters, which is filled with really cool illustrations. It's kind of like Evil Willy Wonka with creatures of the night and really cool, fascinating, fun stuff. Kind of scary and great, just a really great read. And then also
I have to
from
thank
Mr.
a friend of mine for that recommendation.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank them too. Yeah, Corey Merritt is the author of this one. And then this from Caleb, which I am so like I started reading this. I'm like maybe about halfway through. This the television horror movie host. This is great. This woman, Elena M. Watson, man, like when you have a pet project, it can turn into this.
God,
and she was just like, I love horror hosts, so I just wrote a book. And I'm like, yeah, you did. It's a lot of fun. And, it's great because, of course, the picture on the front is Zachary. And if you listen to the other Comic Book Bears Presents podcast, Tito Gutierrez and I talked quite a bit about him in our Frankenhooker episode. So, it's just a lot of fun. Thank you very much. There are a couple of little things that I do not have around me, but super grateful. And thank you so much, guys. That just made my Christmas.
Also, Bill, I don't want to skip anything out. Did you send me a book? I feel like I missed something that you sent me.
I think I did send something in with the albums.
I know you sent me like a Christmas card thing. I feel like there was something else there, and I need to go.
I think I'm blanking on it, but I thought I sent you something else within the albums that was like a book.
Like I thought you did too, and for the life of me,
well,
I know I have. I have everything. It's somewhere. I may have already put it up because
all I know is it wasn't Chompy Crypto. That's all I know. It wasn't
Chompy Crypto. I like how he has a little mohawk, mohawk of hair. So cute.
Was it the Tom of Finland Imaginary Sketchbook?
No.
Huh. It was something. You sent me great shit, as you always do.
I'm just gonna hold him because he's gonna go in the. All right, I'll let him go.
This isn't going to be one of those situations where he flies right into the fireplace.
It just hits Bill in the eye.
Hit me in the ball. He hit me in the balls one time.
Oh,
so
just like a real dog.
Since we're leading it into me, I got that for my. You can't see it on the picture here, but I got this for myself, and then the other half got me one too. So one to open, one to play.
There you go.
And that happened with a couple of things here. So now I have more Superman and Mr. Terrific. I do have to show off the Tito gift. It's not far, but our good friend Tito knows of my alarming interest in the 1987 reinterpretation of Barbie called Barbie and the Rockers. That was basically when Barbie was ripping off Gem and the Holograms. Yep. And I will say that they never made Bill Zanowitz in the 80s as a doll, but it's kind of close to Derek here. So he got me a Derek. The sick thing is, this is my second Derek. I have another Derek in a different outfit. So it's not even like double dipping. Oh my God. But just Derek. Two things I wanted to present. Both got these from my partner. One thing I love, and this has mostly been British magazines, there's been one, Search and Destroy, which was a Los Angeles magazine, were these collections of fanzines, of music fanzines, particularly indie music and punk music from the 70s and 80s. So I got two of those collections. The first is Touch and Go from 79 to, I think, 83, which was a Chicago punk fanzine that eventually became Touch and Go Records. And I also got Sub Pop USA. I'm also wearing my loser shirt here today. And Sub Pop USA began as Subterranean Pop, a fanzine in Seattle, and eventually became Sub Pop Records in Seattle. So they collect all of the materials that were in the actual issues of the fanzine, except for the Sub Pop. They don't have the cassette issues. There were 3 issues that came out as cassettes, but you can find those online. But oh god, I love this like archival reading like this, and that's right up my street. right in that wheelhouse. There's Bill's wheelhouse, and these kind of books say, "Here we come," So
awesome.
that's something.
So Bill, I want to make sure check on one thing. Did you get anything Elvis Costello related in the mail?
Yes, I thought I talked about that on the last show.
I couldn't remember if you did or not.
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't.
No, you probably did. My brain is potatoes. It's been a month. So like, okay. I was wanting to make sure that you had gotten that in. So
yeah, and it's over there. I'm very sorry about that.
But and again, you probably mentioned it on the previous show. I just wanted to double check. For 2026, Caleb to know.
Elvis Costello's memoir, Unfinished Music.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
You're welcome. Just want to make sure you got it. I couldn't remember if you text me about it or not.
It's and then I don't want to get into the negative stuff. And I went through a lot this holiday season.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Oh man. My car blew. My partner just yelled, "My car blew up." Yeah, it did. The engine went. Yeah. And it's not
the new car. The new car.
Yeah, with less than 45,000 miles on it, and the engine went kablooey. But it's all good now. It's all good now. So, you can't hear his audio, but
I can.
Laugh.
I can.
You can? Okay. He just pulled the old young ones, Emma Thompson, like, "I've got a Porsche. It's not an automatic." Right. Google it. Look it up. It's funny. All right. All right. So we probably should move on to news that is comic book related. And I think we just have like a little more slow news that Steve wanted to provide.
Just a little smidge. And I think we kind of mentioned it. We kind of mentioned it last year. Oh yeah, there you go. Actually, yeah, it would work as a big chunky punk earring of some sort. Don't cause any damage. You don't want to look like you just came from Claire's. But yeah, so last year we kind of mentioned it. This was huge news when it was released by DC Comics that they were going to be bringing back one of the storied and most loved imprints that has been a part of the big two publishing world for years and years and years, and it kind of gone away. Some might say like slightly replaced by Black Label, but not really. It went through a lot of transitions after pretty much after Karen Berger left. I think it more or less stopped being what it has always been, and that is the Vertigo imprint. And so DC basically said, you know what, we've heard everything, we've heard people talking about it, we want to have a place where we can have that kind of creator focused original work again, and just leave Black Label for mature DC superhero titles, and then have a place like Vertigo again. And so Vertigo in the month of January is going to be releasing the first titles that are under the revived imprint, and that includes Nice House by the Lake. Now, Nice House by the Lake has been, or this is actually Nice House by the Sea, which is a sequel series to Nice House by the Lake. It's already been running, and in fact, this is going to be issue number 7 of Nice House by the Sea is going to have the Vertigo imprint on the front cover as well. We also have Bleeding Hearts number 1, which is written by Dennis Camp, who you may remember is one of the top writers of a couple of our number here from 2025. And that's with Bleeding Hearts number 1 with art and cover by Stipan Morian. And then also we've got, I think the third book that's coming out is End of Life. which is written by Kyle Starks, who I absolutely love, with art by Steve Pugh. And finally, The Peril of the Brutal Dark, which is an Ezra Kane mystery, is the subtitle there. And that's written by Chris Condon, with art by Jacob Phillips. So, I mean, four great titles to start. Hopefully people will be intrigued to check them out and support this sort of new revived initiative of Vertigo. But there are several other titles that are up and coming. I mean, we're expected to get another 100 Bullets book, A Walking Shadow by Simon Spurrier and Aaron Campbell, Fanatic by Grace Ellis and Hannah Templer, Necrotaceous, which looks kind of cool, zombies and dinosaurs, not, by Tom Taylor and Derek Robertson, Black Tower by Ram V and Mike Perkins, and then The Crying Doll by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. So
you're missing a book.
Which book?
Swamp Thing 88.
Swamp Thing 88, yes, which is a continuation of Swamp Thing. Now, I don't know when it's specifically being released, but it should be.
What?
Is that the Rick Beach book?
Yep.
Yes.
Nice.
The continuation of that. Yep. So that will be released, I think, a little bit later this year. But for the next couple of months, you're looking at this, this group of 10 books, which is it's a good amount to start with. And so, for people trying to pinch their pennies, you should have something that you can pick. But, if you don't have to worry about that, you can get all of them.
Yeah. And I think we should mention that about the Swamp Thing 88 with issue 87 of the 80s into 90s run. Rick Veitch had planned an arc where Swamp Thing met God, and it was deemed too controversial, and it never was published, and he was also removed from the book. And decades later, they did discover original scripts, pencils, and were able to complete it. So I think it's going to be 4 issues. I think that's right. 80 to 80,
it was only
91.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also part of a bigger arc called the Swamp Thing time travel arc. So that's very big news for old readers.
It's weird that I've got a couple of things. It's weird that was controversial in a world. Was that before? And this is retrospective. Was that before or after Sandman?
Oh, it was after. Well, after.
Yeah, it's weird that would be controversial considering the stuff that's in Sandman.
Yeah, but we also don't know what the content is.
That's true.
And
That's
apparently it wasn't necessarily the nature of it, but the actual storyline and imagery themselves.
He put a yam in God.
He thought it was like a hot potato. So
or a hot yam. Do either of y'all know if they, and this is what I was going to ask a while ago, do y'all know if there's any plans to reprint any of the older Vertigo stuff that already exists, or have they mentioned that?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a fairly robust area of DC that's been represented.
Yeah.
Think of like some of their evergreen hardcovers and soft covers. You think of Fables, you think of naturally Sandman, you think Sweet Tooth, you think of Scalped, 100 Bullets, which has already been mentioned, Preacher. So I think the stuff that may still be in the uncollected bins are not exactly the primary things, but it would be nice to see, like, there were so many Sandman offshoot titles, whether it was Sandman Presents or The Dreaming or the fuller runs of books of the post game and books of Magic. I don't know how well collected some of that material is. One series I've never read, which I would love to, since we're talking about Sandman, is there was a 12-issue Unmen series.
Yeah.
Series I just never got around to. And like, if it was collected, that's something I'd be really interested in.
Well, so the Vertigo collections are specifically some of my favorite ones. And if we're just talking about like shelf porn, like some of my favorite books on the shelf are like these treatments of Vertigo books. So they would say, instead of doing like a big, thick, honking omnibus, like 100 Bullets is done in, I think, 5 different versions of this. Right. And so it covers. Yeah, it's a compendium kind of situation. They also did the same treatment for Why the Last Man, and if I'm not mistaken, they did the same treatment for Scalped. Now, I have 100 Bullets and Why the Last Man. Getting this version of Scalped is very high on my list, but I have never seen it at any of the cons I go to in
Yeah.
this format, right? In the 5 hardcover compendium versions. But I think, I would love, and I think honestly, like House on the Lake or House on the Ocean or whatever they're called, House on the Sea, like
House
that.
by the Sea, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff would be great in this style format if they go long enough, and I think that at least Tynan is planning on it. So, but yeah, these are like my favorite treatments for some of those series, and it's fantastic because you don't lose stuff in the gutters. The books are great. I need to get Scalped on this too, but yeah, I'm really hoping that somebody at Vertigo is listening to our show and that they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, Caleb. We'll give you everything we've ever done.
Yeah.
With long form versions of this.
Yep.
But I think of the properties, you're safer with Vertigo than a lot of conventional superhero stuff
Yeah.
that may not have been top tier.
So something to think about too, though, is that when Vertigo came out, it really did give a lot of creators to tell these like creator indie-owned stories. But that happened at a time where, depending on when you're thinking about it, though, that Image was not the Image that we know of today. And I was chatting with some friends of ours about this kind of concept, considering the Image contracts and how much money they get. I'd be curious to know from behind the scenes, like what Vertigo is going to do to really entice some of these creators to come tell creator-owned stories of this type at Vertigo, as opposed to taking it to Image, because Image told a lot of the same types of stories that we would get for a long time. So like they're gonna have to find a way to make people come to them and not go to Image, and that's gonna be interesting to see what they have to offer.
Yeah,
I think they can.
it does seem that this is like, because really, out of the creators that are involved, the only the new creators, because Tynan Things is already pre-existing. To me, the only real marquee name there is Jason Aaron. I'm sorry, Azzarello with 100 Bullets. That's a mistake there.
Brian Azzarello with 100 Bullets.
Yeah, and I think that they may be doing that in a format that just might be more under the radar than actually pursuing. Like if we were in a situation that we were like a few years ago, where DC and Marvel were dominated by exclusives,
right?
I would think that they would be more open to to actively pursuing. I would be gun shy given the instability of the parent company right now. If I were a creator about doing a creator owned book, though you're signing like considerable media rights away. From what I understand, the last few were like right of first refusal, but Why the Last Man, DMZ, Sweet Tooth, they all ended up under the DC, the DC Warner's umbrella, for the live action treatments. It's an interesting question. I think if it was a few years ago, I would say that they probably would be more militant about trying to gather talent, but I'm not sure if the terrain that exists in the comic industry right now really feeds into that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Well, and as you're saying that, when you said that, it makes a lot of sense. And I immediately thought, okay, there's got to be a lot of trust in Marie Javins to what's going into this too, and because of the parent company situation. So I imagine that she's having to do a lot of legwork to make sure that.
On the other end of that, these same creators are seeing what the Absolute books are doing.
Yeah, they are.
And that's a much shorter puddle jump to Vertigo than main DCU is. So there's other, there's pros that, balance the cons that I just mentioned. So,
yeah. It could also just be, just an attempt to revitalize the revitalize Vertigo, because
and
for
also it's like maybe Vertigo did need a rest.
yeah, I
Maybe
mean
it
it
did need
did.
a rest.
So
You had like that really frustrating last wave of
yeah,
Vertigo books, like the Second Coming that ended up somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like, and it seemed like there, I would say like from 2008 onward, there were so many soft relaunches of Vertigo, and some of the books were good and some were good for a short time and some were not good.
yeah. And then it just kind of disappeared, and I guess was semi replaced by Young Animal for a period of time.
Yeah.
There was the Joe Hill series of horror books but I guess under Black Label basically. But
And
it was
there
more
also
Joe
was
Hill,
Sandman Universe,
Sandman universe
dug
stuff, which
into
is
that,
pretty
and
much
also even though it was DC characters, Black Label.
yeah.
Black Label felt very, very, very Vertigo in the way in its
Yeah.
presentation.
But I always said, even when it happened, Vertigo's is a comic book death.
Yeah.
They revive, and there's just too much legacy there. And what's really nice is out of all those Vertigo books, there's only 2 that have a connection to the past. In 100 Bullets and Swamp Thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rest are original creations. So
which is what it should be. And again,
Steve, it's also interesting that you mentioned pinching pennies. And one thing that was really nice, if you do order books through DCBS, and I assume one of the other 2 other services that are somewhat like them, the first issues for Vertigo were very affordable. I mean, I think were they under $2 each with the discount?
I can't recall. I know it was close.
Yeah,
it was close to $2 mark, which is really good.
It's much easier to take a chance with a $2 book than a $6.90 book.
But if you're going in, if you're going into your store, if you don't order through DCBS or other services, what DC has been doing for, I guess, stores that asked for it, or that normally receive things like that, they have sort of a preview book that's in stores this month that has segments or sections from the 4 titles that are launching this month. So that's, I think that's a good way to intro somebody who's maybe not sure if they want to pull the trigger or not, but they get a taste of a couple of the books. They might, it might be something that they want to continue reading. So, but yeah, definitely the best way to keep a revival like this going is to actually buy the books. So if they're good, support them.
I think that may be another topic we should just briefly discuss, since you did mention giveaways.
Yep.
And we are coming up this year on Free Comic Book Day, but we are also coming up on Comics Giveaway Day.
Yes.
Which is an awful name.
Terrible name.
It's a terrible
Somebody should have workshopped that.
But, again, with Free Comic Book Day being somewhat liberated from Diamond, some books are coming out in May under that title, and then the PRD, the Penguin Random House books, like Marvel and some of the others, will be having giveaway books in April that are, it's basically like Free Comic Book Day before Free Comic Book Day. In terms of like a united industry, I think that's a little sad to see, but it's nice they're continuing. But God, what an awful name.
Yeah, but I mean, but if it is nice that they're continuing it from the legacy standpoint. But like I was reading an article, I think yesterday, about DC's free comic book day stuff. It's just reprints. There's nothing new. Like, and it's all the big ones are doing that. They're not giving.
I mean, that's been what we've been seeing the past couple of years. Is a lot of reprints.
Yeah,
maybe like a sort of like a 0 issue that constitutes of 8 pages of new content.
Yeah,
and then the rest of it would be something else.
I could kind of understand that, since it was up in the air about whether they would even have one.
Yeah,
so I think maybe for this first year post Diamond, you're gonna see stuff like that.
Yeah,
Marvel seemed a bit more original from the solicits.
Yeah, maybe I hadn't seen those.
But for Comics Giveaway Day, I'm not gonna be.
Considering the
You know-
state of some of the stuff that Marvel's been producing lately, they're going to have to give it away.
Uh-huh.
It's just going to be actual issues, that they
Yeah.
just couldn't sell.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. Like, there is a lot of reprints this year, but at the same time, some of those reprints are, they share some success in the past, so it's just a way of getting in the hands
And
of
also,
somebody
they're
else.
not reprints to the majority of people that are going to be having it.
Exactly. They're geared towards people who maybe
they're
just
not-
to get them in the door, get them something free.
They're geared more towards civilians and not experienced soldiers like us.
Yeah. And there's also going to be some
That's true.
crossover with the Summer of Supergirl. We're assuming that DC's going to do a promotion like that, which
Mhm.
will have some, either some free or reduced cost titles.
If they have
of
the Summer of
Supergirl.
Supergirl, goddamn, I want the Autumn of Clayface.
The Autumn of Clayface. That actually sounds pretty poetic. The Summer of Supergirl gives way to the Autumn of Clayface. Oh, and then Avengers Doomsday, December 18th, where Avengers is going up against Dune 3. That'll be fun.
G-Core Avengers.
Oh, but yeah. Anyway, cool. But yeah, I mean, it is good that we are getting a free comic book day, whatever form it takes, or forms it takes now.
All right, well, I guess we're going to move into comic book talk. And for that, we didn't discuss what order we should do, but all three of us have a DC book. So I think Steve can start with his. I'll go to mine. But Caleb, for yours, since it's archival material, maybe we can leave yours to the last.
Okay.
And then we'll move on to your your independent book, which ties into my independent book. And then Steve can talk about his, and then backtrack back to your older DC book.
Perfect. That'll put mine in the order that I was going to talk about them in anyway. So
cool.
All right, good.
All right. Well, so I'm going to be talking about a book that both of you have said that you were kind of like and bowed out early. Well, I did not feel the same way.
I don't bow out.
Oh, you didn't? No. I did not feel the same way. You should
never have given him that toy. Look at him. He's stealing your thunder, Steve. Take it back.
He just loves that toy. Oh, so good. Anyway, so the book I'm going to be talking about is Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum. So, this is a book that I thought was just beautifully written, beautifully drawn. The writer on this is W. Maxwell Prince, and Martin Morazzo provided the artwork along with Chris O'Halloran in a couple, in a couple sequences. But I just absolutely thought this book was wonderful. Just from page to page, loved it. The writing on it had a quality to it that I hadn't really read from a Superman book since All-Star Superman, but also harken back a little bit to Silver Age kind of stories. And this one, Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, it generally is about some new colors of kryptonite being discovered. You have a purple kryptonite, you've got a cobalt blue kryptonite, a speckled kryptonite, and some mysterious rainbow crystal that is supposedly inert. And throughout the issues, it's a 5-issue miniseries, Superman tests, with the help of Batman and his Superman robots, tests the qualities and the let's just say the effects of each of these types of kryptonite. And that ostensibly it's just a fun romp of like, oh, what kind of crazy shit is this kryptonite going to do to Superman? The purple one sends him sort of careening through time, experiencing time differently. So he experiences, the future, the past, the present, all out of whack, out of sequence. And that's how the story's told. And that's in the first issue. The second issue, it's the cobalt blue kryptonite, which causes him to grow into essentially a giant kaiju Superman, which in great Superman fashion, he decides he's going to go and visit Metropolis and just kind of tell everybody, get ahead of the whole thing, say, guys, there's no reason to be scared of me. I'm just a giant version of myself. And of course, shit goes wrong because Lex Luthor decides to take advantage of this, shoots him with a missile of red kryptonite, turning him to a massive asshole, where he then decides to destroy Metropolis and those humans who have destroyed their home. And thankfully, parts of the Justice League show up. You've got the Atom arrives and tries to, keep him at bay as a fellow giant. Wonder Woman gets swatted. Green Lantern spends all his time trying to save people from office buildings, including a poor woman who has been working for 4 years on the best spreadsheet ever, and she forgot to save it. Just all these little details and little fun things that happen to Superman here, and the conversations that he has with Bruce, the conversations that he has in the third issue with Shazam, with Billy. Billy Batson, formerly Captain Marvel, now Captain Shazam, and they make fun of that as well. They call him Captain Shamarvel or Shazamarvel at some point. But there's so many things that happen to Superman here throughout it. A combination of the kryptonite and chemical from the giant creature Chemo turn him into Superboy again. They make him a kid. At which point the toy maker and Dr. Savannah team up and create an evil amusement park for no reason but to torture Shazam and Superboy, Superman. They just walk into it is the most ridiculous thing ever, but it's fun. It's fun to read. These stories are just goofy and creative, and it puts Superman in these wonderful positions where he has to confront his idea of home. And throughout the whole series, the idea that parts of his home, of his birthplace hurt him, that they cause him pain and cause him to suffer and cause other people around him to suffer because of the effects that they have on him, it's a major part of his own personal trauma. And no matter how wacky and silly and goofy some of these scenes are, it always comes back to that idea that Superman's own home of Krypton, it was destroyed, and it continues to traumatize him. Every time parts of his planet show up, it hurts him. It is his weakness. It causes him to change his personality for the worst. In the case of red kryptonite, and so many others. So, and also just sort of like the pain that his own home causes him. And some things come out, like when he's a giant and he gets hit by red kryptonite, he complains about how humans don't appreciate what they have. They have a home and they are destroying it with pollution. When there's a point where he's in the fifth dimension in the fourth issue, which is absolutely wacky and fantastic and involves a lot of walruses dancing. There's a point where it becomes a long prose story. And in that prose story, it's him going back to Kansas and helping out on the farm and talking to his dad. And Pa Kent, while he's talking to him, Superman can only think about how his heart sounds irregular and how his father doesn't have long. And he doesn't know when that death is going to happen, but that's all he can think about now, is that he can hear his life sort of ending. And that causes him pain too. And so there's a lot of things here that work with the idea of home and the idea of trauma. And it's all tied up in something goofy and somewhat innocent looking and funny. And Lex Luthor has some great lines in this that are just hilarious. He's constantly threatening everybody that works with him. Like, I want you to do this. No, sir, we can't do that. Oh, okay. I will. I don't want to lose my 401k and or have my family being, eviscerated in front of me. Like, all these things are just these goofy little comments, but all throughout this, it's this idea of home. And Clark, Superman has to deal with home. In the fourth issue, it's Mixus Pitlick and the fifth dimension that's dealing with a destruction of their home, because there's Brainiac, not Brainiac, but Brainiac, who's this little, bowl cut boy who doesn't have imagination, who's slowly destroying the dimension of imagination. And they have to fight back by having Clark find his own Batmite, his own version of his mini-me, who is Kal-Elf, who's ridiculous and silly and kind of looks like the villain from The Incredibles. I don't know. It's just such a goofy character who breaks the fourth wall monstrously and just has a lot of fun with it. But all of this leads up to the final confrontation of Superman in issue number 5 and Kryptonite Man. So here is a clone of Lex Luthor who's been infused with all of the properties of all the pieces of Krypton or Kryptonite. And Superman very literally has to fight against the personification of his home. This, I mean, it's pretty heady. I mean, W. Maxwell Prince, he doesn't hide his message very well in this book. Like he does play around with it. It's funny, it's goofy. There's a lot of crazy sides. The detail that he works with and that Marazzo works with here in the artwork is just incredible. There's so much to see. But the story of home being this important thing that Clark has to, one, leave behind, but also deal with forever is just so good. It's so strong of a message. But I absolutely love this. I thought that there was so much there to enjoy and so many little things to pick out from sort of the long history. And they do pick, they make a couple choices of this version of Krypton was destroyed by Brainiac. Brainiac's, was the supercomputer that ran the planet and decided to self-destruct. That's one version of, the death of Krypton. And this one too, he and Lois break up. That's a big part of it. So, that doesn't always happen in Superman stories. But there are some universal truths there. Jimmy is a goofball that he really likes hanging out with. Krypto is hilarious and very insightful for a flying dog. Bruce is still his best friend. And it's such a really fun book. And it filled me with nostalgia just to read it. For a lot of Superman that I probably can barely remember. Some old Silver Age Superman and Superman from the 80s that I haven't read a lot of, or it's been a long time since I've read. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So I recommend it. Now I know you guys didn't really jive with it so much. So
I like
probably for
I like the 4th issue the best because
I agree.
W. Maxwell Prince is one of my favorite modern writers, right? And it's because he does one thing that no one else does, and he does it really, really well. He writes surrealist comic books, like actual true to form surrealist comic books. Ice Cream Man is phenomenal, and he does a really cool thing right there where he's experimenting. Each issue is different than the last, and so issue 4 is what I loved about that because he gets into the 5th dimension, and it feels like a surrealist comic. Interestingly enough, every other issue of this series, if you had have handed it to me and told me it was a Mark Russell book, I would have believed you because it reads just like a Mark Russell book. It doesn't read like a particularly great Mark Russell book. So, and that's my issue with it. Like the art stuff is fantastic. So I mean, I don't really have any nits to pick about it. It's for me, it was an enjoyable story. There were parts of it I really liked. I liked some of the choices that they made. But when I have a book with W. Maxwell Prince on it, I want him to lean into the surrealism because that is what he does. But maybe that's me typecasting him too and being one of those audience members who refuses to let the artist grow and stuff like that. But I don't particularly know that that's true because Ice Cream Man is way different than some of the other stuff that he's written, right? And so I like the spectrum of work that he does. This just did not necessarily strike home to me, and maybe it's because the product did not meet some expectations that I had levied on it unfairly, and that is not a fairness to the work. That is not me taking the work in the 4 corners that it comes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is not a fact of what took away some of the appreciation of the book. I still don't think it's a bad book that's not what I'm saying. It just did not feel like what I really wanted from W. Maxwell Prince and what I know he is capable of. So, especially with some of the characters in the Superman universe, but it sure ain't bad to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate things both you gentlemen said. And I think for me, and I freely admit, I've read very little Ice Cream Man. I've read a couple things here and there, but I don't even have a trade of it, you know.
Mm.
But Steve, I really zeroed in on how you really distilled the story, that element of something Superman should be celebrating his home attacks him.
Yeah.
On an ongoing basis, and the psychological damage that can provide to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful story, but you have to swim through a lot to get to that, and I didn't think it needed it. And when you have to swim, especially through levels of snark and deliberate cleverness, I just didn't attach to this. I will agree. I thought the fourth issue was kind of where things started to gel a bit more. I haven't read the fifth issue yet. And the fourth issue had my only genuine real laugh when that woman's in the kitchen when Mr. Mix's Pitalick comes in and she's holding the yams and she doesn't remember buying them, and then she says she has yamnesia.
I've got yamnesia.
I thought that was funny as hell.
It's
And I really,
joke.
I really like Dr. Fate in the fourth issue.
Oh, Dr. Fate
love
popping up.
the characterization of Dr. Fate. But then you get to this fucking guy took me out of the story,
Oh.
and it just didn't, and like, the diagrammatic that comes in the middle of the issue from Mix's Pitalick, and if this was a Mark Russell issue, that would be seamless. Here it's jarring.
Yeah.
And I just think that in some ways it's attacking the inspiration of its source material being the Silver Age Superman. And when you think of other works that have mined that territory, particularly Alan Moore's Supreme, basically it is still subversive, but still is a love letter to that. I don't feel the love from this. And like I said, like these are incredibly talented people, and it was frustrating I didn't connect to it, but I didn't.
Yeah, and it's interesting to
And
say.
I don't think my feelings are. I don't think they're invalid. I don't think my concerns are invalid.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that you didn't feel the love for the source material here. There was some really fun throwbacks, and issue number 5. There's a point where Superman is hit by a pink kryptonite bomb, and immediately he turns to Jimmy and he's like, "Jimmy, have I told you how much I think you're a wonderful person? You are a wonderful man." And Jimmy's like, "Oh, this is gonna get a little weird," and he's just like, "No, I just need to say that you are all great." And then he goes on to like basically tell everybody why they're amazing. And like the joke with the pink kryptonite was always like, maybe turns him gay. But that was just sort of, a nod to that, but then launching into something else that grounds Clark as Superman in a way that he loves his friends, he loves protecting the people around him because that's his home. And just how he interacts with Lex Luthor is just wonderful. So yeah, I mean there's a lot to love in this book for me, and I can absolutely see from your perspective how that may not be how, say, somebody with a little bit more experience in writing superheroes, especially Superman, would have otherwise done this book. I think with Maxwell, it just he does approach it from a different perspective, and you can tell that that's not really his normal genre. So but I like the interesting perspective.
In the spirit of pink kryptonite, though, I do want to say this: my issues with it aside, you loved it, and that's what matters. and you are not somebody who regularly talks about Superman. You are not somebody who
No.
regularly talks about these types of books or things, and you loved this. So it hit its mark to that degree, and I respect that, right? Like that is
And maybe I'm the only one who
more
likes it.
important than any of the issues that I might have had with it. Ultimately, it's that somebody read this comic and fell in love with it, right? And that is fantastic. Like that is great. That's wonderful. And I think at the end of the day, that is truly all that actually matters in the long grand scheme of things. And so I don't want to poo poo on your joy, right? Like, so, I mean, I love that you loved it.
Yeah. Well,
and there's something that's always comforting in a sense where it's people of undeniable talent.
Yes.
Issue product and you don't connect with it. That's very different when it's just some fucking hack.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and it just missed the mark for me. But you know, there are areas where Steve is very much in line with me, and other areas where Steve and I don't agree at all with, you know, what we enjoy in terms of, you know, the slots we fit in. And
the Dan slots that we fit in.
And in that way, there's no way that's a failure. No, I think connected, and the other two of us didn't. And I apologize for the pauses, but Rob made me like a very big homemade cookie.
I was wondering what you were eating because it looked good.
I had to eat it because you have to eat them warm. Yeah, it was the whole side of the plate. So.
It made me snort.
All right, well, I'm gonna move on to my thing. Now, just give me one brief second here because I put together some notes on this because I didn't want to suck today.
Break out my legal pad of notes.
Oh, I use Notepad this time, but my book is much closer to standard superheroics, but it's a very important book in the scheme of things, both online and in conversations among ourselves. You know, we've been talking about, you know, how, you know, out in the atmosphere, the success has been for DC's Absolute line, you know, both financially and creatively. I think all three of us had Absolute books that were elements in our favorite of last year in the last episode. And right around Christmas time, this book was issued, Absolute Wonder Woman number 15. And Steve, I think I did provide a graphic for you for people who are following along with us that way. And this is as it's built here, the first ever Absolute team up is here. It's not the first real crossover. That really was the Absolute Evil one shot where you had, I don't want to even say villains, but like antagonists kind of align with each other from the different casts for the various Absolute books. But this is the first crossover with Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman. And I really love the way this is characterized. Instead of a crossover, they characterize it as a duet. And there is also Absolute Batman number 16, which I think is like it's out or it's about to come out. I'm not exactly sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's if it's not upon us, it's like next week.
Right.
So I'm gonna give you some background on Absolute Wonder Woman number 15. It's written by the regular team and drawn by the regular team, written by Kelly Thompson, with art by Hayden Sherman and colors by Jordi Belair. I have to say, Steve, did you pick, or was it Caleb that picked Hayden as your favorite artist?
Yeah, that was
Caleb. Yeah,
that was Caleb. If this issue had come out, I may have joined you. Because
you're still welcome. You're still welcome. Right here, baby. Come on. Come sit down.
Oh, honey. All right, so let me just give you like a Reader's Digest version of what goes down in this book. Again, it's the first crossover of these characters, and it starts with Wonder Woman in Gotham City. In Gotham. She goes to Gotham. So Wonder Woman's in Gotham City right from the start in this issue. And she's following up on a series of grisly murders that include the mark, the iconography of her patron god Hecate. And so she knows about Batman and she enlists his help. And what we get is it's really like like I've always talked about the Absolute books as being really good remixes, and this one was like more like a cover version of an older issue of DC Comics Presents or The Brave and the Bold, because there's just this novelty and charm to seeing characters together, and especially in this case where the characters are together for the first time. And so again, just to get down with the story, there's this series of murders. Again, there's the iconography of Hecate. Diana's really freaked out about this, so she enlists his help. And she already knows some stuff about him, and there's a little back and forth with that. And instead of, it's really refreshing that we have a version of Batman that's not the ultra paranoid version.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, it's not he's not already considering ways that he would take down Diana if she became powerful. That if that's the eventual destination of this version of Batman, he's not there yet. And I think just because of his blue collar background, he may never get there. So that was something really refreshing to see in the Diana Bruce back and forth. And so she explains why she's there, and why that he's the best person for this, because she admits she's being a detective is not exactly her forte. So they go to the area where the killings take place, which is what I almost wanted to say Suicide Slum. That's Metropolis, Slaughter Swamp. And there's some very funny dialogue there about Gotham's kind of obvious, with if we're gonna have a swamp, it's gonna be called Slaughter Swamp. And through this, they get to the bottom of the killings, and the more that they investigate this, the more they find out that these are not really ritualistic killings, but it's actually it's a trap set for Diana. Now, earlier in the story, the Wonder Woman gave Batman a device that he can always contact her with, and that ties into the story later, not necessarily from a position of trust, but a position of being a savior to Diana. And just the thing that I just really appreciated, as I said earlier in this story, was the art. I mean, Sherman's Batman does not look like the Absolute Batman, but it has the same energy, that same kinetic sense to how he moves and how he operates. And maybe there's a couple of pages where Kelly Thompson is actually writing the standard Bruce and not the Absolute Bruce. I do understand that argument that's come up, but in terms of what this achieves in the space of 24 pages, if this is the first crossover that we have among these characters, and I did love the tease that Diana provides of there are others out there like us, and even named Superman, and that this fits so well into the narratives of both books. I was just stunned by this book. I really, really love this.
I mean, just look at the perspective that you get on the pages being shown.
Oh my God. And I just loved as they get more, as the storyline and the investigation gets more chaotic, the panels go from symmetric to asymmetric.
Yep.
And
his sense of composition on the page is one of the best of a modern artist. Like it's wild. Like I don't understand how he mentally visualizes the things that he does. Which I'm not an artist, so it's not surprising. But a lot of times when I look at the composition of a comic page, I get how the artist got there. With Aidan Sherman, sometimes I'm just like, how the fuck? Like, where did you pull this from? It
Yeah.
makes no sense. And it makes all the sense in the world at the same time.
Yeah. And I just love Diana creates a bat signal. I absolutely love that. There's also some really interesting conversations between the two of them about magic and what magic actually is through the story. And it's, the actual like plot is thin. These are a setup to get to Diana. There's some allusion to the bigger story there, but it doesn't get mired in it, which also ties into the absolute evil one shot. But I thought this was great. Steve, you may have one more graphic here. I think.
Let me see.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more.
And that's where we get a big boom, and that's where things go kind of south for Diana. And, even here, just the layout with that.
Look at that. Yeah.
Oh, man. especially using the face of a clock as the template for that.
It's like he takes the sensibilities of J.H. Williams and as far as like panel layouts and stuff, and just the way that he works with like non-traditional panel space, you can tell he's studied that some, but again, it's not J.H. Williams as far as its style at all. But it just
and I forgot to mention this within the story. Again, there is the notion of magic that's at the center of this. We get the conversation given Diana's origin. Is Diana a golem? Which is like, what? We haven't got, characters have been around since 1942. We've never discussed that.
Well, I mean, some of the versions of her history was that she was formed out of clay, which
this version is too. Yeah.
Well, there's other tiebacks to. I mean, the golem is essentially what Superman is based off of in his inception. The character.
No.
Yeah.
Superman is Moses.
So there's a book called From Krakow to Krypton that is a very, very, very good read about the history of it. And so yes, there is a Moses aspect to him, but they talk about the golem and the superhuman aspect of the golem and how that plants seeds and how the creators of Superman kind of tied into that. It's a fascinating read and stuff like that. But yeah, there's very much some of that that history of our Jewish sensibilities to it as well.
Yeah.
For Superman.
And then at the end of the story, I didn't give you a page there, but this is the very end of it. And we find out what time of year this takes place. It's a Christmas story on top of everything. So it's just a wonderful one shot. It is part of the bigger arcs for both for both characters. But it's also something. This is something I got to say. If you haven't read Absolute yet, this is not the worst introduction to that world. No. It's not. Even though stuff is kind of happening midstream for a lot of the action. And just some of the things Diana says here. I think we're going to need lots of friends if we're going to save this world. That's so sweet.
Yay. Thank you, Kelly.
Absolute super friends. just be a bit more twisted. Yeah.
Well, just Bruce is a big lug. Like he's not a super billionaire who has all the resources. I mean, he's a street tough.
But it also it was so nice to see Bruce being a bit more trustful.
Yeah.
Of this version is like with what he's been through. He understands what the ramifications of the situation that he and Diana are in. And like I said, it's like a really good cover version of a old time, but with like a more adventurous band.
No, I like these versions. These absolute versions of the Trinity are just such good remixes of their characters who they're supposed to be. I mean, you've got a Clark who isn't blindly trusting and terminally optimistic. I mean, but he has reasons for it. He's not just like, I'm grumpy, like that's not his thing. He has reasons and he's fighting through it. And Bruce, Bruce is friends with everybody who would have been in his rogues gallery. These are all his buddies,
genuine friends.
Yeah,
genuine,
long time friends. Yeah,
even
and the connection to Waylon and the like Killer Croc. That's hard. Like if you're that might bring mist to your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and actually, that was one of my favorite in the the issue right before they introduced the new Joker, which Jack Grimm, this is probably going to be the best Joker since the Bat Who Laughs, basically. But you had Killer Croc helping out Batman against Bane. But more than that, you also had the Riddler helping out Batman against Bane by, extracting the venom from him and working with Catwoman to use that venom against Bane later. Like, I mean, these are historical villains for him, but here in this world, they're his buddies. No matter how twisted they become, they still, mean a lot to each other. And
Yeah.
I'm really sad about the Penguin. I'm not sure what's going to happen to him because he's been so severely deformed. But he and Two-Face like cheering Batman on. Just a cool panel, just like a cool couple of panels.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like this version. I like
Yeah.
this Batman. I like this Gotham.
And I
So-
also love that in January is when we really start seeing the expansion, at least of maybe heroes. Some of the solicits with one of them make me wonder, but we are getting in January Absolute Zatanna in Wonder Woman and Absolute Hawkman in Superman. So,
and we know that Absolute Hawkman, I think, is more of a super villain.
that's what I just said, Steve.
You said expanding of heroes, not villains.
But then I mentioned the thing, maybe it's not. That's what I said.
Okay. But yeah.
Though you infuriate me, I am quite fond of you. All right, Caleb, I'm going to throw it over to you with a book from Mad Cave.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us away from the distinguished competition and take us down to some indie comics and talk about a book that I did not see coming. And Bill, as you mentioned, it's from our friends over at the little small publisher of Mad Cave. And this book is called Look Into My Eyes. And this is written and drawn by an artist named Rubin. Not the more well-known Rubin that you may know of from comics history. This is just the single name, kind of like, Cher, Prince, and Rubin. But it's also done, the colors are done by Francisco Segala with an individual named El Torres who does the letters. This book, I actually jumped on the stationary bike at the gym the other day, picked up the first issue, and by the time I was done writing, I had read 5 issues, like read the entire series, and kind of fell in love with it. But I'm not going to talk about all 5 issues just because we'd be here for a while. So I'll broach into the first issue of it and then kind of give you an overview of maybe what to expect. But I really hope some of you go out and read this book because it's a lot of fun and it's visually stunning. It's great visually. I think you'll really like it. There's some really some very modern style sensibilities done in this book. So the book opens up with a little bit of an explanation of a possible murder or a missing person and the disappearance of this young girl named Susie. Now, Susie was the it girl in this, you call it a town. It's also an island. It's a secluded island on its own, made of one town on the place. Everybody's, up in each other's business. And Susie was very popular. Everyone loved her. I mean, she was the most well-liked person at B. Wrightson High, right? Like a shout out to Bernie. So I loved that. But then she disappears mysteriously, like she dies mysteriously, and no one knows why. And everybody, as everybody is remembering her, she was everyone's best friend and things like that. But as the book goes on, you realize that there were some things, some things going on that weren't all Mayberry-esque. Maybe there were some stuff happening around Susie that might allude to the fact that her disappearance involves some foul play, right? And so the book gets into that, and the way it gets into that is through this character named RJ, who RJ might be the only honest person or genuine, if not honest, genuine person on the island. And RJ is this young girl. She's a high school student. She is a go against the grain kind of person. She doesn't give a flying fuck if anybody likes her or not. She's not afraid to piss people off. In fact, she actually actively it tries to be the thorn into the side in a very punk rock kind of way. She is, she is anti-technology. She writes a zine where she, it's the the eye, right, where she's getting up in people's business and she's talking about what's going on too, and maybe revealing some stuff that people don't want out into the world. While all of this is happening on the island, the one important thing that you need to remember is that for the longest time, this island was very secluded. You got bad internet access, bad phone access. That very, if this were set in the world of 2026, this island would have been like 2005. Behind the times, until this company comes in and kind of sets up shop. It's this quasi corporate military presence of this company called Cannon Corp. And they've built these giant satellites on the island, and they're doing all kinds of research, and they're the biggest employer on the island. And no one really knows what they do or what's going on, but their presence is everywhere. And they've brought the island up to the 21st century, which has brought in a lot of technology and stuff. And they've also pushed and implemented a new form of social media, or at least a new social media site called Knock Knock. And everybody's on Knock Knock. Everybody loves it. Everybody except RJ. RJ's not on Knock Knock. RJ is kind of the person who kind of can look past the veneer of things and see see the cracks in it and what's going on. And she's kind of the first person that picks up on the fact that there may have been some foul play going on in Susie's death. That she's kind of looking into the friends around her, and there's this, it's very cliquish because it's teenagers, right? And there's this kind of mean girl club that they have, especially this, the call her the femme fatale, or this kind of focal point of this girl named Nancy, who has got, Nancy. I mean, she's a bombshell. She's the high school cheerleader. She's popular. She's manipulative. She's a bitch, and everybody loves her for it, right? Her boyfriend is the sexiest person in school, and this version of sexy is a little bit different than maybe what our. It's like this young new age version of sex, like tattoos on his face, leopard print hair, kind of island boy ish. But I look, the kids these days. I'm an elder now, so the aesthetic is different. I don't know, but I mean he's what would be popular in the modern social media age. Young kid, probably got a SoundCloud rap channel. I don't know. But they're all feuding, and they're all nice to each other one minute and hating each other the next. But as RJ kind of starts doing some research and finds out some stuff that's going on, she's beginning to see how some things tie together. But it's not RJ that really figures out the link. RJ has a friend named Ellie. Ellie is a non-binary student. They are, they're a fish out of water on this island. People make fun of them as well for who they are, not very nice. And so you have these two kind of misfits who bonded. Ellie is on Knock Knock, and Ellie finds some stuff on Knock Knock that ties in the disappearance of Susie with Michael, who is the tattooed face it guy, who is the boyfriend of the the bombshell, or the popular girl. And Susie might have, been sleeping with the popular girl, right? There's some allusions to that. So that adds to the disappearance. And that's kind of where the first issue ends, is that there's some text messages that are found and given. Also, the book is really cool in a sense that it's multimodic. So all through this book, they play with the idea of modern age technology, of the fact that we live in a world that is interconnected. There are QR codes all in this book that take you to things that add texture to it. So you can scan a QR code and it takes you to missing text messages between the characters that no one else is supposed to know about. They take you to different places about Knock Knock where they're showing you, right? So this book, it's kind of like, Marvel did the VR thing a while back where they did some similar stuff with that. This book plays with that. You don't need the stuff in the QR code to really get you to understand the book, but it's fun texture, right? But in the very first opening scene, right, it adds to the idea, and you can if you're not careful, you'll forget it because the book purposely does some misdirections. But when it opens up and you see Susie in a bathroom in a Halloween costume having a breakdown, but there's all of this black ink splatter and stuff going on. And then at first page, you would automatically think that there's something supernatural going on. and then the book takes you down a quasi murder mystery to kind of misdirect you. As you go on through the rest of the issues, you realize that there may not necessarily be anything supernatural going on, but there's absolutely something going on with this Cannon Corp that they are trying to hide, and they are using basically this island as an experiment, and it's gone bad and gotten out of control. And then the book gets fun. So if you like the misdirection, if you have been watching shows like Dairy, you're going to like this book. If you've been watching shows like Stranger Things, you're going to like this book because it goes into that same vibe of high school students, of kids on a mystery adventure, of misfit friends, and of a supernatural bent, of government agencies that are doing things that are weird, corporate espionage, and just weirdness. It is a fun read. There are some very interesting twists. It will take you to, it is violent. It takes you to some places that you're like, oh, okay, yes, this is being very subversive in what it's trying to say about modern society. I thought that was great because ultimately what it is, there is a supernatural element to it, but it is a treatise on how, and we're seeing this in real time now, how social media, which has all of these good benefits in of it, on the surface level, but how it's been co-opted by major corporate forces to do a lot of damage to society, and it's actively doing it now, and the government's now gotten involved in that too, and now you're seeing the merger of these government entities, and how a lot of people are susceptible to that influence, and how it can make them do some pretty stupid, obviously stupid things. So it is both a fun kind of story, an interesting story, an adventurous story, but it's actually saying something too. And if you're not careful, it'll make you fucking think about things, right? And I love that. So you can read this. The trade should be out if it's not already out. It will be soon. You can read this on a lot of the different streaming services. I use, a paid subscription service to read comics. That subscription service is, as I pull it up, because great radio, go away. Global Comics, which you pay a monthly fee for. It's got Marvel stuff. It's got a lot of stuff. It's a lot of fun. But go check this out. I think that I think you guys would find a lot in this to enjoy. Just from, like I said, from the punk rock alternative teenage elements of it to just the what it's doing on a supernatural horror story style bend, and the interconnectedness of the story. I think they're doing a lot of really cool work here. So cool. highly recommend this book.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Also, Caleb, as long as I'm around, you cannot refer to yourself as an elder.
That was tongue in cheek.
You cannot do that, yeah. Dude. If you're an elder, what am I, in a fucking sarcophagus?
It's a Methuselah. No, that was very tongue in cheek. I am reaching that weird middle age thing though now, where I don't understand like teenage and 20-year-old culture now. Like I appreciate it, but
my day,
yeah.
Well, in my day, we used to wear an onion on our belt because it was a style at the time. Did I tell you about the onion we used to wear on a belt? It was a style at the time.
Well,
Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah,
Grandpa Simpson reference.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue with the Mad Cave love. And I have to say with Mad Cave feels like it's in the zeitgeist in the comics industry that Scout was a couple of years ago. Yep. And it also seems like I would not have been surprised if some of these projects ended up at Scout, if that was an ongoing concern at this point. So we have a long, God boy, Jersey came out there we've had a long association with Mad Cave and Mad Cave creators. Mm-hmm. We've had the writers for Nottingham and Villainous on. We've talked about past graphic novels like Phone Call Away. Mm-hmm. I've talked about some of the licensed properties like Gatchaman and Speed Racer. My favorite book last year was a Mad Cave book, the Mark Russell's Vanishing Point. Mm-hmm. And at this point, it also feels like a number one from Mad Cave is a very easy yes when you're making the decisions about what to buy. Recently for me, that was the case with Terabytes and Whatever Happened to Crimson Justice. So I got at it again, and I got the first issue of The New Space Age. See that? Okay. So, what is The New Space Age? It's a book that's written by Kenny Porter. The other members of the creative team are artist Mike Becker, colorist Kevin Battau, and letterer Buddy Bodine. What a great name, Buddy Bodine. And it takes place in the not too distant future of 2055. Mark Mitchell is an astronaut, but he's not exactly like at the top of the game of astronauts. And he delivers supplies as part of a regular missions, as part of the space program. And as he's employed in that job, he makes a very uh, quick moral decision, saving the lives of 3 astronauts, but it also leads to the bankruptcy of the U.S. Space Agency. And he and his good friend Bobby all of a sudden are out of jobs. And he's exploring his options. And he goes back to his farm, and it gets him in touch again with why he decided to become an astronaut. He had a younger brother, Joey. They were in a family situation where the father was out and out alcoholic and abusive, and they retreated into science fiction and escape. And unfortunately for Joey, he made an escape, but not under his steam. He was abducted by aliens. And again, part of Mark's mission a as an astronaut is to find his brother eventually, to become the first man from Earth to go farther out than the Icarus station number 3 into space and find his brother. As I said, he goes back to his original family home, of a farm up in New York State. He visits his old friend Stacy Pulikowski, who was a traveling escape artist, and she talks a bit about some of the things that she's been doing. And she very recently got involved with the study of magical symbols and runes, and it put her in a very difficult place. But this kind of puts an idea in Mark's head, where Mark's brother had been abducted. There were various crop circles, and he finds, as he's getting into this, that a lot of the iconography and the designs of the occult symbols that Stacy was studying match some of the symbols that are embedded in the crop circles. So it provides the question of, like, well, maybe aliens are real, but maybe instead of outer space, they're magic. So it sets him off on this journey. He has these sensors, and for the first time since he was a kid and his brother disappeared, they go off, and goes to a neighboring farm. The farmer is beside himself because Cynthia has gone missing. And Steve, if you can go 2 into the graphics here, this is Cynthia mid abduction. and he and the farmer are able to rescue Cynthia in a very sweet little part. But then, as he's going through this, a lot of this stuff is making sense and is connecting. And his friend Stacy, and Stacy is also somebody that knew his brother as well, growing up together, start investigating what might be happening here. And it was a really good jumping off point for this series. And I also have to mention, and you can see it there, Kevin Battau's color work. I think that it deserves very specific mention because he's more responsible for the shift in tone than the art itself or the narrative. And that's that's a sign of a good writer, that they will rely on a colorist to do that. I would love to see what the script for this was like, because it felt they were very much on the same page.
Mm.
But the colors for this really stood out, and the possibilities that you're provided of, you know, dedicating your life to one thing and finding out, though not necessarily that it's set in stone, but it might be something completely different. You know, I just think that that's a very, very potent jumping off point for good stories. I think it's set for 5 issues,
Hmm.
and I'm really glad I picked up the first one, the new Space Age #1.
The art
I mean,
style
that
in
looks
that's
pretty
not
cool.
yeah, the art style and that's not completely far off. It doesn't look like from the book I just talked about, The Look Into My Eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's also something like I mean, I can show you these pages. Um, this like later period Shaken.
Yeah.
There's definitely an
Oh.
influence there too, as well.
Eh.
Even though like a story like this would never be Shaken,
Yeah.
um, I just really was impressed by this story, and it wasn't that there was one thing going on. It was like there were 15 things going on, but it still felt like a very tightly run ship. And sometimes when you do have newer creators and independent stories like this, sometimes the first issue, like there's too much in the pot, and this one felt it had as many ingredients as books that I say, hey, you got too much in the pot, but it was stirred nicely. Oh, that
That's
was a
cool.
nice way of putting it. So I think I'm in for the ride for this one too.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. All right, Steve, why don't you talk about one of your other books?
Well, my other book I'm going to go pretty quickly, and this is actually a sequel series. This is originally it was I believe it ended up being like 20 some issues. Written by Kieran Gillen, drawn by Stephanie Hans, with letters by Clayton Cowles. This is a
I love
sequel
this
to
book.
the series Die. Yeah, so this is Die Loaded, which or Loaded Die if you want to reverse it. Basically, it's a direct continuation. So, in the original story, it concerned 6 teenagers who were um, whisked away while playing a Dungeons and Dragons type game. It's just a tabletop game, and they ended up going into that game world and living lives, full lives, as these fantasy characters. Dealing with these kingdoms and all sorts of crazy things. Well, they made it back, or at least 5 of them did. And years later, as adults, they've grown up, they've gotten families of their own. Um, Something pulls them back in, and that's the circumstance for the first series, and all sorts of the craziness that happens in that. One of them unfortunately dies, but they do get the original person who had disappeared along with them, Saul, who had kind of in the meantime manipulated the entire game world into this kingdom of control. He gets pulled back into the real world as well. So this book picks up just 2 years afterwards. The group had been brought back right in the middle of COVID, and so didn't really get to experience much else other than being stuck at home and being surrounded by people wearing masks. And this is after killing millions and just fighting battles and all sorts of craziness. And now they're stuck like sitting at home and getting takeout because or banging pots and pans out the window because that's the world that they come back into. Well, now it's 2 years later. They finally have the memorial service for the one of the friends who had died in the other world, and we're introduced a little bit more to Sophie, who is the wife of one of the main characters. In fact, wife of the narrator from the entire first book. Well, they get these prizes or these little gifts as going away presents from the wake, from the memorial service that were given to them by the one passed away friend. And as they open them, Sophie ends up with a 20-sided die. And unfortunately, upon touching it, she is now transported to this world. She knows nothing about it. Her husband has said nothing to her. He's been keeping it hidden. All of the friends basically, have been keeping that reality where they really were tightly controlled. Nobody knew what happened. They were, in fact, I think the whole narrative is that they were kidnapped as teenagers, and then years later, the same person presumably kidnapped them and killed their friend, but also they were able to release the one that had been remained missing the entire time. Well, when Sophie arrives in this world, this fully realized otherworldly fantasy, land that's surrounded by enemies, she instantly realizes this is where my husband was. This is where everything happened, where they disappeared to. And that knowledge just flows into her, as well as the requirement for her to pick a god as an avatar for her. So she knows nothing about tabletop gaming. She knows nothing about this world, and immediately she's thrust into making a bargain with her soul. So it's really interesting how the narrative and the narration shifts completely to somebody who is fully out of their element in this situation. I think Kieran Gillen does a great job making that vocal transition from from the original narrator to his wife, and also introduces us to the first major twisty, crazy conflict that we're going to be experiencing by revealing that Sophie is not the only one who has been transported to this world. In fact, the daughter of one of the other players also has arrived. And yeah, I'm excited for this. Like Kieran Gillen, I mean, they made a tabletop game from this book. Like he basically wrote the rule book while writing this series, the original series. So I'm so curious as to where they're going to go with this, what kind of world we're going to be experiencing this time around, because they really flipped the whole place on its head the last time. And of course revealed that the world itself is kind of alive and wants to get out and wants to bring everybody into play. So
one of the things with this story, I mean, it plays off of D&D tropes. So you've got classes of characters and stuff, right? Well, they've got one class of character known as a grief knight in the first series. I bawled. Bitch. Like, I mean, there was one issue where this knight takes his power from grief, right? Like he has to be grieving in order to be powerful. But the more he grieves, the stronger he gets. And there is an issue where they break this man's heart, break his heart. I was reading this and just like an ugly crying as I'm reading this, right? It was brilliant storytelling. And coming from, like, I play D&D. I love tabletop games. It is fascinating to see what he does, and to also see the avenues that he doesn't take, like some of the standard tropes of those things, and say he's not going to touch these things, right? Like it's the magic.
The different, I love how they're not necessarily like each class has its own dice that they play with. It's just there's so many details. Like he went fully down the rabbit hole to build this world completely, and then create this story with these characters who've been trapped in it, and they showing their true selves, or at least the selves that they're stuck, having to confront. And there's so much in this. This is going to be a wild ride. I know it is. So die loaded.
All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to abbreviate this one a little bit.
That's okay. I was planning on doing that anyway, just because of the nature of the show and stuff like that. So last year, if you listen to our end of the year recap and favorites, I mentioned that I hadn't read as much new stuff, because last year was kind of a year of retrospective. And that is also true. I've got a lot of stuff on shelves that I've never read and I want to read, right? And so I'm going back and reading a lot of things. Last year, I read the first omnibus of the Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan, The Question. This year, I started off the new year by breaking open the second omnibus of it. There's a lot of amazing stuff in this book, right? The Question is a fantastic character. He is a reporter. It's Vic Sage, who, doesn't really have a whole lot of superpowers, but when he wants to, he puts on a mask that hides his face and he goes and beats the shit out of criminals. He's kind of a libertarian in his inception a little bit, which shouldn't be surprised. It was created by Steve Ditko to some degree. So this book, the story kind of picks up and carries on with the Vic Sage legacy. But there was one issue that I read that really just hit me in the chest, right? And that's issue 32. It's called The Peacemaker. The city that Vic Sage lives in is a crime-riddled city, right? There are a lot of things going on. And there is a new mayor who he has an on-again, off-again relationship with, both a physical, love, but can't, it is what it is, but also he's a reporter, she's the mayor, and so there's a tension there that they can't be what they want to be. But essentially, because of the state of the way things are, Mayor Connolly has said, hey, citizens, I want you guys to form these not necessarily vigilante groups, but I want you to form these neighborhood vigilant associations, right? And I want you to patrol and help me do this stuff, right? And there's an area of the city that are all these decrepit, burnout, crap hole old buildings that need to be torn down. And of course, there were people slumming in there. And so one of the things that they've done is they've said, hey, we're bulldozing these. These are going down. Anybody who's there, you got to get out or you're going to go boom. And so as part of this neighborhood association is also getting into there and making sure nobody's around. This is kind of a one-shot version, one-shot interjection in that story. There is a man named William Parker, and he is a Vietnam vet. And when he was in Vietnam, most of his platoon got wiped out. And they got wiped out because they were in a village and he thought he saw something but didn't act on it and should have. And that caused the death of a lot of his friends. Because of that, he swore off violence, became a pacifist. He survived. He got back home, but he swore never to pick up a weapon. But his neighbors approach him and they're like, hey, we heard you were a soldier. We really need you to help join our neighborhood vigilance association. He says no, but then they talk him into it on the condition that he doesn't have to touch a weapon. Well, long story short, they go through and they are trying to weed out ne'er-do-wells who are in this space. And they go into one of these areas of town that's about to be destroyed, and put him in a situation where PTSD kicks in. He thinks he sees something and he's not going to make the same mistake twice. He sees somebody run by and he completely loses it, blacks out, goes into combat mode, takes a weapon and goes after some people. And spoilers from a book from 1989, he kills a kid. And in turn, because he can't live with himself for what he's done, he turns the gun on himself. This is an incredible, powerful story, right? It's a story about PTSD. It's a story about repression. It's a story about regret, the dangers of armed militia, the dangers of vigilantes, right? This is a DC story about the danger of vigilantism, right? And I think that is a very important thing. All in the backdrop of the Question being a vigilante himself and taking matters into his own hands. There's a lot of statements being made by Denny O'Neil in this entire series about he kind of picks up on some of Ditko's things about the right to kill, which you see Ditko and Mr. A doing a lot of work. This is a really hard to read story, but it's a very important story. It's a very important series. And it shouldn't have to twist your arm to get you to read a story by, Denny O'Neil and drawn by Dennis Cowan, because it's going to treat you the right way. It is very of its time, but of its time is a good thing. So if you can get your hands on this omnibus, if you've never read The Question, this version of it, do so. You'll be better for it. It'll help you understand modern versions of these characters. And it's still fun stories. I would say that this series is an evergreen series to me. Like, it doesn't feel stale, even though this was written in the late 80s. It's had time and the world has grown and gone places, but this is still very important storytelling. So go check it out. It's good for your health.
Cool. Did you read stuff in the omnibus that wasn't the O'Neil Cowan stuff? Because I know it's pretty loaded, omnibus too.
I'd have to double check. Most of the 2 omniboo that I have are the O'Neill Cowan stuff. There may be
Oh,
some stuff in there that's not, but
because I thought it had the Brave and the Bold miniseries. I thought it had the stories from the Question Quarterly.
I think it does. I think the first one
You thought it-
does. Yeah, I think the first omnibus does. I'd have to go. It's been about a year since I
Oh,
read those.
okay, because those were all well after the first issue.
Well,
so.
and maybe so.
I mean, I'm just looking at the solicit that I see here, and it there's material from Green Arrow Annual.
Okay, so I'm only about a quarter of the way through the second omnibus, but I'm looking through here.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's Green Arrow Annual #3 in this. There's the Question Quarterly in this. I haven't read that. There is Brave and the Bold in this. There's several issues of Brave and the Bold. There's Showcase, Azrael Plus #1, and the Question
That's
Return.
good.
Yeah,
The Azrael Plus is
Azrael
I have not
Plus.
made it there yet.
That's
I'm
good.
working on it. I will let TBD. Stay tuned.
Yeah, because those are two interesting characters to go, to get together. Be interested to see when you read Brave and the Bold, because I haven't read it since it came out. It was a mini series. It wasn't the main Brave and the Bold series, but and I'm happy to see it because it includes the Butcher, who is not a DC character.
Yeah.
It was published by DC. The sad thing is, as time went on, the writer Mike Barron proved himself to be an all-right piece of shit, and I'm wondering how those issues read. This is a three-way team up of Batman, Question, and Butcher, and when you get to that, I'm really interested to get your take on that and how those read.
Yeah, I'll
Mike
get
Barron, Mike Barron of Nexus.
Of
Mike
Nexus,
Barron.
but also work with Base Stickman and all.
Yeah,
that.
I will absolutely let you know. But all I'm saying is, it might be a good time to go back and revisit a story like this, where a misguided, knee-jerk reaction government person is convincing everyday people to go out and become vigilantes, and they end up killing fucking civilians.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a good time to go back and revisit that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Might be a lesson there that we have not learned as a culture since 1989.
Okay.
Maybe.
You were the one, you said you want to end it on like positive notes.
I know.
All right. Well, let's keep going. But someday when I dig out my single issues, I definitely want to do a Question reread. They're probably on DC Unlimited,
They should be.
or
Yeah.
Access. What the fuck that thing's called? All right.
Infinite.
DC Infinite. Thank you,
DC
Steve.
Infinite. I
All
know
right,
because
well,
I just got charged.
We're up against time here, so we're going to finish up this episode of the Comic Book Bears. And when we finish up an episode of the Comic Book Bears, we do so with the segment we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar where we woof at something which might be comic book or comic book related, but it also may be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, my woof of the week is going to tie into your woof of the week. It is not the same, but thematically it shares a lot of elements. And what that woof is the return of Shorzy with season 5. So you might recognize Shorzy if you're a fan of Letterkenny. Shorzy was the never seen, at least from the front, character who's just a complete and utter dick. He was a hockey the hockey ref, as well as just everybody's least favorite person in Letterkenny. Also played by Jared Keeso. Jared Keeso then, after Letterkenny finished, went on to play Shorzy in the self-titled series. It's up on Crave in Canada, and it will be on Hulu, I believe, and also Prime in the US when season 5 premieres here. There's usually like a couple weeks difference, but it's up to episode 5 now up in Canada. It's hilarious. It's another wonderful season. every episode is just a masterwork in cinematography, music. The music is incredible. I mean, they just know how to move and how to pick tunes. And also everything is hilarious. If you like good banter, put it mildly, there's some wonderful lines in every episode of this season. So go check it out, Shorzy, if you haven't. If you're a fan of Letterkenny, maybe you'll like this too. Or hockey,
right.
if you like hockey.
All right.
Some of you might
Hockey.
be liking hockey more. Some of you might be liking hockey more a lot lately. So,
all right. Well, let's go over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Woof of the Week?
My Woof of the Week does not involve hockey. There's no pucks needed, but it is a television show that got one season. It's all it got. It's all it's needed. It comes from a few years ago. It's available on Prime, and it's called The Pistols. And this is a dramatic or Pistol. Sorry, this is called Pistol. It was produced by FX. It's available on Hulu and some other things, but it's essentially the retelling of how the Sex Pistols came to be. And Bill is way more familiar with the origin and the real life origin of the Sex Pistols than I am. So I have no idea. Well, I have some idea of some of the things that were a little bit different or they took artistic license on, but overall, really fun show. Fantastic dive into the history of it. The people who did the costume design for this show absolutely nailed it. The characters were at least what they seem like they should be. The way that they bring up they bring the band together is very neat. It did not necessarily happen organically, but it organically gelled to be something that was very cool, and I think they drove that home. They bring in these other not side, but very important figures to the Sex Pistols history. Malcolm, who was their manager. You get the Vivienne Westwood style of the fashion and this kind of everything kind of coming together, and how the music affects the clothes, affects the performance art, and how it's one thing. Interestingly enough, and I have no idea if this is reality, there's some snarky comments made about Andy Warhol and the factory and stuff like that by Malcolm and Vivienne Westwood, who essentially were doing the same thing. And I found that kind of fascinating, right? Because they were, they show Vivienne Westwood's sex store and stuff like that, and just the punk movement, how it grew to be. I thought it was great. The actors did a fantastic job. There's some really great people, really great actors in the show. Toby Wallace plays Steve Jones. Anson Boone plays John Lydon. Actually makes you a little bit sympathetic to that character, which is funny considering who he is today. You get Tallulah Riley, who plays Vivienne Westwood. Thomas Brody Singer plays Malcolm McLaren. Lewis Partridge plays Sid Vicious. You see how these kids got eaten up, by what they got latched onto a ride that they really were not prepared for, and it took them for a ride. And not all of them made it out. So, Nancy is a sociopath from hell. It's amazing what that actress does. But yeah, no, go stream this. Go watch it. Have fun. Bill, at some point you need to watch this.
It's amazing that I haven't, but it is a story that I know inside out. It's based. I've even read the book. It's based on Lonely Boy.
Yeah.
Tales from a Sex Pistol by Steve Jones,
yep.
the guitarist. And it was interesting when it first came out. I was pleading with Steve, please download the episodes for me. I never got to them.
I'm interested to hear what you say. I loved this. I absolutely love this. And from everything that I know, which granted, I'm not an expert, it does seem to line up with the history of it. All right. And so I'd be curious to see if that matches up. One fun fact that I did not know, Steve Jones, I did know that he could not play guitar when they first started. He, that was more of he wanted to be in a band, but didn't have he had to learn as he went. I had no idea. And apparently this is true, that Malcolm McLaren gave him his first guitar, and it was a guitar that was once owned and played by the guitarist of the New York Dolls. I did not know that.
He had the information, but most of their gear they stole.
Yeah, well, and so he was the Phantom of the of the music venue.
Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah, it's Phantom of the Odeon.
Yeah.
In the first opening, I'll spoil something. In the opening clip of the first episode, he's clipping the mic that David Bowie sang into, and he's talking about how it still had Bowie's lipstick on it. So,
I gotta
yeah,
see this.
so they get
I
into
don't know
those
why
kind of details. I thought it was fantastic. Man, the kid who played Sid Vicious will break your heart. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Wow.
Have you ever seen Sid and Nancy? Okay.
I
Very
did such
well
a
done
long
film.
time ago.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
it
very
Gary
well
Oldman?
done.
Was it Gary Oldman who played Sid?
Gary Oldman and Chloe Webb, who was really should have had a much bigger career as Nancy Spungen, and it's like the film. Alex Cox, who'd done Repo Man and Straight to Hell, you know, he kind of really fell off the map as time went on. But there was a point where he was a very promising filmmaker, and in its own twisted way, Sid and Nancy actually has a sort of happy ending, which could have been so simple. You know,
Yeah,
it's a nice sentiment that was never reality. It's a good film. It's a good film.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, in some way, yeah. But it also would be interesting seeing, since that was a film that was made in the mid '80s, how that balances with this. So interested to hear your take.
I know we're up on time, but I do have a question that I want your opinion on, just in general, considering the subject matter. John Lydon. Do you think that he's a true believer in kind of some of the stuff that he says, or do you think that he is somebody who is a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian?
I think there's a little bit of both.
Okay. I lean towards the latter. I think he's a contrarian for the sake of being.
Yeah, I think that's the majority of it, but I also think that he's been in a very strange bubble for so long of, you know, supposedly championing punk ideals, but, you know, they're all pretty well off.
Yeah.
You know? Not so much from this, but, you know, they made a lot of money on the 94 tour.
Yeah.
And, you know, as time has gone on, and Nevermind the Bullocks has been an evergreen seller.
Yep. Thank you for my coffee, by the way.
Oh, no problem. Every home should have one. You know, and it's also a property that they control fully. You know, so basically all the money goes to them. I think that contributes to some of the heinous things he promotes now. He's a parody of himself at this point, I think, at the core. And, you know, I think, you know, anybody, you know, would have sympathy, you know, of him losing the love of his life in the manner that he did, you know, due to dementia. But at the same token, and there was a tinge there of, I thought, wow, he's still subversive, because the one shot of him in a Make America Great Again shirt, it clearly was a Chinese knockoff.
Yeah.
It wasn't even an official shirt. So I thought, well, maybe there's just like that little bit of subversive, but, you know, I don't think he's ever been a kind person.
Yeah.
And, or if he was, you know, that went away long ago. And it's also a shame because, you know, in a lot of ways, Public Image Limited is 50 times more interesting than Sex Pistols, just in terms of the sonic terrain that they cover, and with, you know, also some really good shows that I saw, you know, were Pill shows, but some of the bullshit he promotes at this point, you know, it's like, you know, there's an argument that, you know, today's revolution is tomorrow's establishment. Sometimes it's, you know, the way things would have turned out anyway, but I think in his case, there is the added element of trying to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a fact.
Okay. And I appreciate you. I know we're pushing time, but I just kind of wanted to
say. No, it's a very valid question, especially because it is complicated, because he's a singular talent, but he's also a singular asshole.
Yep.
Yeah. They should sew that into a sampler. He's a singular talent, but also
nice
a
couch
singular
cushion,
asshole.
maybe. Just a little pillow.
All right. we're switching
Lazy.
back to Crave, back to Canada, and back to hockey. So I'm not going to say much about this, but my wolf of the week, which was also Caleb's intended wolf of the week, and it's probably the wolf of the week of a million people, if they were asked what their wolf of the week was over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks, heated rivalry. And there we go. All right. So unless you've been living under a rock, you would they might not know, but since we have people who are pretty tuned into the world here, you'll know that Heated Rivalry is a Canadian sports romance TV series. It's based on Rachel Reed's Game Changer novels of series, and it follows the storyline of two ice hockey players over the period of 10 years. Shane Hollander from Canada and Ilya Rozanov from Russia, who was relocated to the United States. And over that period of time, they are involved in a secret romance. Maybe romance isn't the way to really characterize it at the beginning, but it does end up that way. There are a number of other characters within the confines of the Heated Rivalry storyline that have their own moments, but it's centered on these two. And we have sex scenes that are 10 times hotter than most porn that you'll ever see. And somehow they did everything with not big names, with a minimal budget, and this took the world by storm. The thing that I love the most, and this is not part of the world I'm in, but seeing, particularly from the podcasting world, how straight hockey podcasts have embraced this, even having live feeds. In regards to the last 2 episodes, I think episode 5 is going to go down in history as one of the pivotal episodes in episodic television. I absolutely love watching the reaction videos from bars of people watching that end sequence. It's, in this world right now of chaos and confusion and bullshit and anger and bigotry, that we have something that is, in the end, so positive and about love, where maybe love wasn't originally part of the equation. But that's the way that the relationship moved. And,
Also, let's be very honest about something. One of the biggest demographics for this show are just heterosexual women. Men, straight men, you're welcome. We have gotten a lot of you like over the past month.
I guess.
You are welcome for that. If it were not for gays, you would have not gotten the quality sex that you've gotten lately. So thank you, and thank us too.
Yeah. I love what you said, Caleb, because I remember one time I saw Maxwell in concert, and he's talking about it's mostly women that go see him. And then he's mentioned that the guys there, and he just, at one point during one of the raps, he goes, "Gentlemen, you have to understand, I am setting you up tonight." But you have the 2 principal actors who are media savvy as fuck and appear to be having the time of their life.
Was on Kimmel or not? Yeah, it was on Kimmel
in terms of on this, and even with all the like weirdness of because of 3 fucking players of the NHL, diminishing their pride nights and then retracting back, and now they're trying to embrace it. And like even like so tonight is Monday night, there's Gays for Gritty over at the Flyers game. It'll be interesting to see, because this is a demographic that has disposable income, important for live hockey tickets, folks. And I don't know, this is one of those things where there's nothing that isn't positive about it. And that was, it's a genuine hit. It was just something so nice to see, and especially so fucking hot. I mean, I'm not one of like, I don't watch a lot of porn. I just don't. And I don't mean I see images, but it's just nothing. I'm just not wired that way. I could watch this day in, day out, because
This is gonna
it was just so well executed.
so my husband is obsessed, like has listened to the audiobook since he's watched the show. The books are on order. He's going to read them. Like he is obsessed, which is great because my husband's not like me. He's not a collector. He doesn't obsess about popular culture stuff, right? And so to see him just immersed in this world has been great. But we were talking and he pointed out something great. He said, this has got all the heart and genuineness of Heartstoppers, but it's for grown ass men.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was the best put. You're right. No, it does. It has all of the genuineness and heart of Heartstopper, which I love. I've got it tattooed on my thigh, but it's for grown ass men. Like, and could not have said it better myself.
Yeah. And then Rachel Reed, who wrote the original series of books that this is based on, she looks like a fun fucking person.
I want to party with her.
And I'm interested to see where her career goes now too. And especially because if you look at any of the best-selling lists, those 5 books are in the top 7, no matter which one you look at right now.
Wow.
Amazing.
It's just wild to think about.
Yeah.
But hey. Spicy Romance. Who had that on their bingo card for
all right,
the end
bitches,
of
let's go to the cottage. We're going to the cottage.
Going to the cottage.
Bitch. I'm coming to the cottage.
I'm coming to
all right. All right, we're going to go up to the cottage and we're going to wrap this one up for you guys. So again, thank you for joining us. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on most social media as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on Facebook, however, as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you can access us through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcasting platforms. And if you are watching us later on YouTube tonight, thank you. Please like and subscribe. If you watched us live through Twitch or one of the other services, thank you for joining tonight. And again, on all of the platforms that are like that, again, please spread the word if you're enjoying what you saw and heard. Until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Ilya.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear Woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Woof. Boom.